You know, every single day we're creating this unbelievable flood of data. Every photo we share, every show we stream, every single online purchase, it all adds up. And this data explosion has created something called big data. It's totally changing the game for how businesses work and compete. So let's dive in and really unpack what this all means.
All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to tackle this in 4 parts. First off, what even is big data? Then we'll get into the pretty cool tech that actually wrangles all of it. After that, we'll see why it's such a huge deal for businesses. And to wrap it up, we'll talk about the serious challenges that come along with all this power.
Okay, let's start with part one. What is big data really? Before we go any further, let's get a really clear, solid idea of what we're talking about here.
So, here's the thing about big data. It's not just about being, well, big. The key, as you can see here, is the complexity and the variety. We're talking about data sets that are so massive, so messy, and coming in so fast that your typical spreadsheet or database just can't even begin to handle it.
And where's all this data coming from? Literally everywhere. Think about it. It's the billions of likes, comments, and shares on social media. It's every single credit card swipe and online sale. It's the nonstop data stream from all those smart devices in our homes and cities. The Internet of Things. And, of course, it's the mountains of videos and photos we upload every single second.
So, to boil it all down, big data is this incredibly fast, incredibly complex river of information from a million different sources. And our old tools for dealing with data, they're just completely outmatched. Okay, moving on to part 2. So if our old tools are useless, what's the alternative? How in the world do you tame this digital beast?
And that's really the million-dollar question, isn't it? When you're looking for one tiny, crucial insight in a digital haystack the size of a mountain, how do you even start? Well, the answer required a totally new way of thinking about computers.
And that new way of thinking has a name: Hadoop. See, instead of trying to use one gigantic, ridiculously expensive supercomputer, Hadoop's genius idea was to spread the work across a whole bunch of normal, off-the-shelf computers, all working together. This was a total game changer. It made storing and processing massive amounts of data affordable.
So how does Hadoop actually get the work done? It uses this really smart 2-step process called MapReduce. Think of it like this. Imagine you have to count every single item in a massive warehouse. The old way would be one person walking up and down every aisle. It would take forever. The MapReduce way is different. In the map phase, you give a clipboard to 100 people and send them to count different aisles all at the same time. Then, in the reduce phase, they all come back and you just add up their totals. Boom, done. It's unbelievably faster.
Now, there's one more key piece to this puzzle: Yarn. If MapReduce is the work plan, Yarn is the warehouse manager. It's basically the brain of the whole operation. It keeps track of all the computers, assigns them tasks, manages all the resources, and makes sure everything runs smoothly without different jobs getting in each other's way.
So, quick recap on the tech side. You've got Hadoop for the distributed system, MapReduce as the clever work plan, and Yarn as the resource manager. The three of them together create this powerful system that can actually make sense of all that data.
So now that we know the what and the how, let's get to the why. This is part 3, the strategic payoff. Why do companies go through all this trouble?
Well, the answer at the end of the day is simple. It's all about gaining a competitive advantage. In the modern economy, the companies that can understand their data the best are the ones that are going to win. This isn't just some tech fad. It's become a core part of business strategy. So how does this actually work in the real world? Well, by sifting through all this data, businesses can find patterns that were completely invisible before. There's a famous old story about a retailer that discovered that on Friday nights, men who bought diapers also tended to buy beer. Who would have guessed? That kind of insight lets make smarter decisions, spot new trends before anyone else, and just make your whole operation run better. So, the bottom line is this: big data is the raw fuel for powerful insights, and it's those insights that lead to smarter strategies, more efficient companies, and ultimately a huge leg up on the competition. But you know what they say, with great power comes great responsibility. And that brings us to our last section, part 4. Let's call it the catch, because there are some very real challenges that come with all this power. These challenges really come in 2 flavors. First, you've got the managerial ones. You can't just buy some software and expect magic to happen. You need people with new skills, you need a different way of thinking, and you need a strategy that treats data like the valuable asset it is. But then there's the other side. And frankly, it's the more important one:
the ethical challenges. When you're collecting that much information about people, you have a huge responsibility to keep it safe, to protect their privacy, and to earn and maintain their trust.
So the big takeaway here is that using big data effectively isn't just a tech problem. It's a leadership problem and it's an ethics problem. It requires a really careful balancing act between powerful analytics and just doing the right thing.
And that kind of leaves us with one last really big question to chew on. As this technology gets more and more powerful, who's ultimately responsible for making sure it's used ethically? Is it the engineers who build it, the executives who use it, or is it something all of us as a society need to figure out together? That's a question we're all going to have to answer.